Welcome back to Snapping Towels with my partner Kyle Foote. I'm Cam Williams. This is episode 4, season 2, 2023. Kyle, tough weekend for us.
Not our proudest moment, but I think this week we'll have a big comeback. I think last week had pretty much coined our phrase of the year, which is parody is back.
Tough
So
board. It was a tough board.
it was tough. Some of our favorites, promising teams kind of sizzled out, which, looking back isn't the most surprising thing I've ever seen, but we didn't think it would happen to snapping towels like that.
We went out on some limbs. I think we took a risk with the Buckeyes. We took the Buckeyes to take down Virginia down in Naples, Florida, a little neutral site game. Um, didn't go well for us. 17-6 was the final. One big takeaway though is our boy Bobby Van Buren, who we had to have on the
Mhm.
show at some point,
That'd be
did a
awesome.
really nice job shutting down Schellenberger. I mean, honestly, I haven't seen a 0-2 stat line from Schellenberger since he stepped on campus.
It's impressive. I mean, that was one of the reasons we picked him. Um, but as advertised, Virginia comes with a boom, and it's not just a Schellenberger. And I feel like we should have taken that more into consideration when picking um Ohio State like we did. Because Ohio
Aiden,
State's offense is pretty flat. And then on the other side, you had Cade Sawset who showed up and took care of Jack Myers. He had 2 goals, but I think Cade had 4 takeaways and a couple ground balls to put a nice bow on the game, only allowing them to have what, 5 or 8?
they scored 6. Yeah, I mean,
Six.
honestly,
Yeah.
Peyton Cormier set another 7-goal performance. He's shooting 68% on the year.
Dude, he's on a Cloutier 2016 run.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd. He's
Um,
absolutely money in the bank. And Xander, dude, Xander Dixon's having a hell of a year as well.
yeah. I mean, he's a great wrinkle. I think Schellenberg gets a lot of attention, obviously at number one, and that team's got about 3 number 1s. Also, Ricky Mizene, the Stanford linebacker, coming over with a crazy viral clip they put up
Sick
in a
takeaway.
ride like a maniac,
Superman takeaway. Yeah, it was pretty
getting
sweet.
fired up too after that guy's a fire hydrant, and I
Dude,
definitely
he's out there, man. He's making a difference. I think he'll
oh
make a difference late in the season for him. He makes a difference between the lines. Like I like him out there.
he's a bull. One game we picked, we fell on the Penn sword.
Brutal.
This is a game last year I picked Duke. I'm not sold on Duke. Still am not sold on Duke, but it's a huge win for the Blue Devils.
Monumental, honestly. I mean, they haven't had a win like this in a couple of years now. They really did a good job on Sam Hanley. He was held to a quiet 1-2. I mean, he shot 1 for 8. Couldn't get to his left hand in the fourth quarter. Like couldn't get top side. Um, Kudos to Duke. Brandon O'Neill looked awesome. Honestly, Duke's goalie looked great.
Wait,
His
whoa,
name,
whoa. Shout out to Wilson Stevenson um, who D'd up Sam Hanley all game, which is
yeah, he
no
looked
easy
great.
task. He's a big boy. He knew Hanley was a big boy. I read an article earlier in the week. Uh, that was pretty much a Wilson Stevenson interview, talking about he just couldn't think about guarding Hanley because he's too diverse. He's two dimensional. So he's got a
Yeah,
lot
he's
of
a tough
weapons.
cover, but he did a hell of a job. Dude, William Helm for Duke, 19 saves. That's the difference in a 14-12 game. That's the difference on the road.
Andrew McAdory with a late goal that went viral, a little stutter was beautiful.
Yep.
He needed to spark something. He's been consistent, but
He
I
he
think
did that on our boy.
your boy
Yeah.
BJ Farrar,
Yeah, BJ
yeah, he
Ferrari absolutely shook
put
him.
him in the spin zone.
Shook him.
Yeah, it's a great win for Duke. They needed it going forward. That's going to be a win that the committee loves to get Duke in the tournament play if their season continues being kind of volatile. But
Well, they're
um,
4-1. Of course, they've already played 5 games. It's March 1st right now. They've already played 5 games.
ACC
They
is
have
going to be
Cuse
tough
this
though.
weekend. They have Cuse this weekend. And Cuse is dangerous. They can score goals. But yeah, I mean, I think Duke's fine. ACC is going to be a tough slate, but that wins. That's what they were missing last year. Honestly, it was like a Penn win to kind of
Yeah,
put them over the
absolutely.
edge. So
Um,
speaking of the ACC, Georgetown Notre Dame. Notre Dame's out for blood, man, and Georgetown's sitting at 0-3 right now.
you called that. You were riding with Notre Dame. Uh, Notre Dame's no joke. Probably the last time I bet against them, depending on the matchup. Uh, but with a team like that, you just have to look at the keeper. And Liam Edelman is the best, if not one of the best goaltenders in the country.
I think he and Colin Krieg have definitely established themselves as the best goalies in the country.
Ooh, I love
You,
that call.
when I watch UNC or Notre Dame, particularly UNC with Colin Krieg, he's almost always the best player on the field. And Edelman, obviously you got the Kavanaugh brothers, you got Chris Fake, you got a kind of a star-studded Notre Dame roster right now. But Edelman really,
I think he's the
honestly,
star.
you can make an argument he's the best player on the team. He's phenomenal. Such a big athlete in the cage, takes up a ton of cage.
Quick.
Um, saves shots, not a stopper, right? Like
Hmm.
controls the ball, great in the clearing game. Yeah, I think Notre Dame is equipped to make a run. And as we've said ad nauseum this season so far, they're angry. They're out to prove something. They're 3-0. Georgetown, I don't know, man. I think they're reading their own press clippings at 0-3. They got a goalie controversy right now, from what I hear from inside sources. The Tucker Dordevic experiment isn't shining, too brightly. 1 for 9 this past weekend. Um, you know,
Couple
Minikis has been
apples.
quiet, so they're not looking very good right now.
They were not up to the task of that Notre Dame defense and Liam Edelman at all. I mean, Hopkins proves to be below average with their loss this weekend, or their slight win at
Beat
home
Utah
against
12-8.
Utah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if you're going to be like a team that people talk about having a chance in the Big Ten, you just can't be that close. It doesn't mean much, but a win is a win.
dude.
And
Speaking of the Big Ten, I mean, honestly, maybe the big aside from Duke over Penn, I think the biggest win of the weekend, Penn State over Yale. Penn State coming off a miserable 2022, um, and to hold Matt Brandau to 3 points when Matt Brandau, some might say he's the best tackler in the country, aside from Schellenberger. Um, to hold him to 3 points after just a horrendous defensive performance all 2022. You got Matt Trainer for Penn State going off for 5-1. This is, granted it's in the snow, it's early season, but huge, huge step for Penn State, and maybe they're a contender in the Big Ten.
they play like that. They usually do that once a year. Didn't they beat Yale last year in a game like that? Was
I don't know if they beat
Yale's
them.
only bad loss?
Oh, you might be right. You
Uh,
might be right.
they seem to have their number.
Yeah, gross weather. Honestly, gross weather all over the Northeast. I was there
they
this
they
weekend. It
they
was just terrible.
they did lose to Penn State 10-8 last year.
Okay.
So I called that. No big deal. Um, yeah, Yale seems to be steady. I'm not too worried about them. They'll come back. Andy Shea will have them going. They'll be a force in the Ivy League.
Yeah, they'll be
Not
fine.
not a great drop for them. If if
But
they,
I,
if
I
they
think
if they don't do well
you
in the
mentioned the
Ivy
Ivy
League,
League. You mentioned the Ivy League, Kyle. It's been a pretty underwhelming start from my guys.
it's interesting psychologically too,
Brown
because
losing to Quinnipiac, Yale losing to Penn State, Penn, dropping this game to Duke. Not that I'm going to hold that against them. Princeton
yeah,
getting handled by Maryland. Um,
and also kind of had a sneaky burner, which we talked about last episode against Manhattan, even though they pulled away.
yeah, Harvard got
Yeah,
worked by UVA. It's not been a good start.
not convinced on the Ivy. I think last year they were coming off the COVID year, which they did not play in. So they had that year of practice and it showed. End of year
And
rest.
not a lot of film on them. I think they're not no Ivy League team sneaking up on anybody this year.
That's a
Um,
that's a great point.
yeah, Princeton. I mean, honestly, dude, the Maryland Princeton
But
game, Princeton looked so one-dimensional on offense, and it's surprising because they have, I mean, they have weapons, but you're not seeing, Slusher and Sam English, really take over any games. Coulter Maxey
100%.
obviously gets his hat trick. There's a viral clip of Dante Trader kind of shutting him down, which Kyle and I talked about pre-show. Kind
Yeah,
of
I
a
mean,
clip where,
he's a
Coulter Maxey's throwing a bunch of box fakes, head fakes, and you have a Big Ten cornerback
corner.
kind of
Yeah.
matching feet with him, no problem. Um,
Yeah. That's when you just got to send it behind and maybe cut in
yeah,
for a little inside pick because
exactly.
I don't love that athlete matchup. I think Trader doesn't
He
get
wins
beat.
that 7 days a
Yeah,
week.
yeah, twice on Sundays. One Ivy that has stood tall coming off a natty appearance is Cornell. Win
They're
against
just taking care of
Albany,
business.
win
They're
against
doing what they
Lehigh,
do.
win
Yeah,
against
they're
Hobart.
they're taking care of
Pretty
business against, I wouldn't say they're great opponents, but they're all tough programs. And I think they're all programs kind of if you show up and you play poorly, you could lose.
for sure.
And they've really just kind of taken care of business. I mean, a sound 12-5 victory over Lehigh.
Mhm.
Big game this weekend. Cornell travels to Columbus to play Ohio State.
Will you be in
Um,
attendance?
I am going to be in attendance. Yes, barring any family illnesses, I will be in attendance. I'm under the weather right now, but I think I'll be good for the weekend.
I think you'll be good as
Um,
well.
I'm looking forward to it to see CJ Kirst in person. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Um, and yeah,
Beautiful.
honestly, Brian Piatelli in person. I mean, these guys were a lot of fun to watch the Final Four last year. Excited to see them up close in the mini stadium that the Buckeyes have going.
Piatelli
Yep.
graduated.
No,
Yeah, he
he
did.
didn't.
The attackman.
Brian Piatelli, number 26.
Oh, Brian Piatelli. Who's the other
Yep.
one? Are they brothers?
Uh,
Is that a
no,
brother?
this kid's a senior.
Who's who was the attackman last year, 41 that went off?
Oh yeah. Uh,
Are they brothers is my question. It was John Piatelli, spelled the exact same. I think we could have a little sibling action, both attackmen. Regardless,
John Piatelli. Yeah.
Brian's taking the reins. Seems like he's doing a great job. Maybe mimicking older bro. Maybe they're not related. That would surprise me more than anything. Um,
Also, the Gavin Adler. Uh,
Erlin.
no, Gavin
Oh,
Adler.
Jack Myers.
Jack Myers
Yeah,
matchup. I
it's
think
gonna
it's
be
going to be
great.
pretty electric. I mean, it's two All-Americans battling it out, two physical players.
Yeah,
Um, Gavin Adler, I think, is some guy I would have no interest in going against.
me as well, coach. Uh,
Absolute savage.
one game we absolutely blew. Don't think due to our fault. I think the team did not show up on the road, drank their own juice a little bit, the poison, as Saban would say. Loyola going to lose a burner at Rutgers. Wasn't even a burner, 6-8. Didn't get off the bus. Scored early, but it was the Shane Knobloch from there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Rutgers is a good team. Final Four appearance in
Season
2022,
ago. Yeah.
a season ago. We kind of said, I mean, I kind of said, I feel like I've said this 2 years in a row. I think they kind of recruit the same type of player. Um, I don't think that's a terrible loss if Rutgers continues to have a decent year. I
Yeah, I
think it
mean,
says a little bit about Army, I think. I mean, Army beat Rutgers. Not that you can't compare scores, compare games, and gather all the information, but speaks well to Army.
Army
And
Army loves that win.
yeah,
And Loyal, we just saw bounce
for two
back.
reasons. Yeah,
Just saw bounce back, beat Towson tonight. We just watched that game.
gritty W. Kyle and
Oh,
I had we were streaming it prior to the show. Gritty W from the Hounds, much
overtime
needed.
overtime win was big. Towson had first possession, kind of put a weak shot on net. Loyola goes down, calls a timeout, fills a healthy possession with a shot to score at the end of it, which was great to see if you're a Hounds fan. You don't want to
Pretty
lose to
classic.
you
Like
don't want to lose to Rutgers and then go to Towson midweek and
no,
have them sneak up on you and lose an overtime burner, and then you're sitting at 2-2.
right, two losses in a row.
Brutal.
It's pretty classic kind of midweek Baltimore battle. we knew that'd be a tough game.
It's never
Always
easy.
is, always is. But to get that W behind you, kind of head into the weekend. Loyola's got Lafayette this weekend. They're going to win by 15 goals at least. Count on that. Uh,
Talk to me about what you saw at Cuse UNC, because I had Cuse. We thought Cuse was back. Gary's in the sweatsuit, not a suit and tie on the sidelines. Let that be stated again. That's big news for Snapping Towels, but you might as well put him in the funeral suit this weekend.
yeah, I mean, honestly, Colin Krieg, I know he gave up 13 goals, but he made some amazing saves, took a few off the board.
Take 13
Um,
against Cuse all day.
yeah, Cuse, Owen Hiltz and Joey Spallina are a sick little duo. After that, it's not as dynamic as you'd like. Cole
Mm,
Kirst is a solid transfer out of Lehigh. He's a big kind of stake kid who can get some looks, but
has ran attack his whole career, now running out of the box.
yeah,
Kind
it's
of
not really
awkward.
that
Kind of
that
awkward for
dynamic.
me.
Yeah,
Um,
they can score
Peyton,
just because they have those two elite kids at in Spallina and Hiltz, but
mhm.
against a team like UNC, who can obviously also put the biscuit in the basket, and a goalie like Colin Krieg, like they're not going to win this game. UNC scoring was really well distributed, which you love to see right now from UNC, coming off some really underwhelming offensive performances at Hopkins, at Ohio State. Um, like totally well distributed scoring. I mean, Goldsmith, who might be their best goal scorer, only had 2 goals. Schertzinger looks like he's back in
Mm,
action. Logan McGovern had 4-4. Lance Tillman had a good game. I mean, it was kind of a it was
complete
a it was a
control.
good team win from UNC.
Yeah, and they were getting their own. I guess Cuse not sliding. I didn't have eyes. You had eyes. There's 9 assists out of 19 goals. So that's a lot of goals that are just coming from creating
Ten
with no
unassisted goals. Yeah,
with no
honestly,
help.
kind of a lot of highlight reel goals in this game.
Usually happens in the dome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Huge
That's
win for UNC. I mean, if they dropped that after their Ohio State loss, it would have been no bueno.
it kind
Um,
of bit it would have put them for sure at the scraping the barrel of the ACC.
they would have been maybe done, honestly, unless they want to go on a huge run. But uh, yeah. So Colin Krieg, best player on the field.
Usually is when he straps up. Other than that, last weekend was pretty much standard business as usual. Harvard taking care of Bucknell, a little bit closer than probably Harvard would have liked with the 13-8 stinger. Owen
Dude, just
Gaffney,
gross weather all over the Northeast. I mean, the games were
snowstorm.
it was brutal. And you said that Harvard would probably like to have a little bit wider margin of victory there. I mean, dude, it was just a sloppy game. I watched a little bit of it. It was just gross in Cambridge. Um,
Oh,
Colgate lost to Hobart in the snow.
oh.
It was just, yeah, that's bad for a lot of reasons. But yeah, no, I think honestly, I'm hoping we're moving into March now. We're gonna have kind of nice weather moving forward. We've got a really interesting slate this weekend. Um, really excited for some games. Particularly, honestly, I think Yale UMass it'll be a pretty gritty game on Friday to kind of launch things.
Hmm,
But UNC Denver, I think is going to be fireworks.
love
It's
that.
like it seems like every week, Denver and Tierney kind of have like a one last legendary coaching matchup, and you got Bresci Tierney. It's gonna be fun in
Dude,
UNC at UNC.
yeah, just to talk about that, the kind of victory lap that Tierney's doing. He plays UNC, then he's going to Hartford to play Andy Shea and Yale.
There you go.
Then he's going to Ohio, or then Ohio State's coming to them. Then he's going to Georgetown. I mean, that's in conference, and then they hit the in conferences. But I think he's playing his old rivals
Yeah, I
to.
mean, he played Danowski already.
It's great.
Yeah, it's you gotta love it.
I like that to start. It's going to be fireworks. Do I? Maybe Denver comes away with it.
I'm taking Denver.
I think I like Denver in that. Snapping towels going with Denver for the UNC Denver matchup. I guess it's 1 o'clock your time, 11 a.m. Pacific Coast time. We talked about the Ohio State Gavin Adler matchup. That is huge. You're going to be in
Cornell's gonna
attendance.
win. I think Cornell wins by 5 goals.
Ooh, that's a big take.
Like I just don't see Cornell going down to Naples, Florida, and losing to Virginia 17-6. Like I just think
No, that's not fair. I don't think so either. I think they're a better team than Ohio State. Ohio State has the home bug, beat UNC at home. I'm not out on BVB and their stout defense.
definitely not. You know, I
I
mentioned
think he can
the
take care of Curse.
yeah, dude. I mentioned the Jack Kelly Adler matchup. BVB and Curse is going to be a hell of a matchup as well.
You're gonna get good ball no
Yep,
matter what you slice it. I hope for a close game.
it's going to be physical for
I
sure.
think the Big Red keep rolling. I think they need this win for later in the season. I think they take down Ohio State, but it's not
Thir
going to be 5.
I think it's going to be 13-8.
The problem is Ohio State's offense.
Yeah, they're just not that
If Ohio
dynamic,
State had one good midi or two, this would be a ball game.
dude. They desperately miss Jackson Reed, desperately.
I mean, he was an automatic bucket for them, so
Sick player. Yeah, great compliment to Jack Kelly.
that doesn't surprise me. I think Cornell wins. I think it's closer than you think.
Let's talk Michigan Delaware,
This is a big game for snapping towels. This is a big game for Michigan.
dude. This is a big game for both programs.
It's
Delaware had a great year last year. Like basically their only bad loss was to Michigan, and that was Michigan's only good win.
That's true. Delaware doesn't have they have a Delaware schedule.
Yeah, I mean it's a CAA schedule. It's
This
nothing
is a
special.
this is a big game for them just in terms of playing a college that has a reputable like a reputation.
Yeah, you know, reputable athletics program. I mean, Michigan's coming off kind of a gross loss to Marquette, to be honest.
I think the Blue Hens take it.
So do I. I
Uh,
think Delaware wins. I think they have more good players.
that's true. I think their defense is better. Um, Michigan still hasn't proven to me that they're like a team that could go on a win and beat the CA champion. So for that reason, Snapping Towels again agrees. We have Cornell, we have Denver, Cornell, Delaware.
All right, another huge game for two programs that desperately need a win. Princeton, Georgetown.
This is going to be the hungriest game of the weekend, maybe the
Dude, if
hardest.
Georgetown goes 0-4, it's over.
They're staring 0-4 in the face right now.
It's bad. It's really bad.
This isn't a game you want to be in the 0-4. You don't want to be 3-0, 0-3 going into Princeton. Let's say that.
Class of 1952 Stadium at Princeton. It's not.
After getting handled by Maryland, which I haven't seen Princeton's offense get handled since pre Michael Sowers. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
I'm going Princeton at home to rebound. I'm not sold on Georgetown. The goalie controversy, the stagnant offense, the one-man show with Dordovic. I think they'll get more goals in. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I hope it's back and forth. I think Princeton pulls it out.
I think Princeton pulls it out too. We're going way too consensus here. But I mean, I don't
We're,
think Georgetown has enough, honestly. Like, you know,
our listeners don't want back and forth. They want the snapping towels lock. So that's what we
yeah,
have
and
to.
we also can't afford to have another terrible weekend. So we really have to go with our guts here. You know, can't be picking the Buckeyes against Virginia. Like, I think Princeton's better. I think they have more good players on offense. I think this goalie controversy is a real potential sickness for this Georgetown team. Um, I'm hoping I see a little bit more out of Minikis this weekend. He kind of started hot against Hopkins. I think he was pretty much not heard from against Notre Dame this past weekend. But I think it's a high scoring game too. Both teams are desperate. Princeton doesn't want to be 2-2, and you can bet your ass Georgetown doesn't want to be 0-4. I think it's like a
That's
14-12, 14-11 Princeton victory at home.
that's a must. That's a must watch.
Absolutely.
Um,
Another must watch. I think Maryland Notre Dame is going to be fireworks. Notre Dame's this is going to be a sick game. I think this
this
game
is
of
a
the
good
weekend.
weekend. It's really weekend after weekend. We get heavyweight battles, which is just a pleasure for snapping towels. Um, this is a battle. I think Entenmann Notre Dame wins it. I'm not sold on Dylan Maltz being Maryland's best player offensively. Kyle Logg still is kind of in the shadow. I'm waiting for him to erupt, as he usually does. With that being said, Notre Dame's got firepower and they are buzzing.
They have
So
serious firepower, and I think buzzing would be an understatement. I'm going to differ from you here. I'm taking the Terps. Um, the Terps are at home here. I
yeah,
think Notre Dame's flying high. I think Notre Dame is as good, if not better, than Maryland this year. Um, I just think Maryland's built to win these games. They play. I mean, obviously Notre Dame plays in a lot of big games too, but Maryland is the standard right now in college lacrosse. They're the Alabama or the Georgia of college lacrosse right now. Um, I think they go into this game, take care of business at home, win like 11-9. I think you see kind of the first time Notre Dame gets really tested by an elite defense. Um, and I think this is a game where you see maybe later in the year in the NCAA tournament, you see Notre Dame come out on top. But I think regular season, early March ball, I think Maryland wins this game.
Maryland won last year. They went to Notre Dame, won an 11-9 burner. We have the Terps, obviously. That was a no-brainer. I think we might have been high on our guy, Liam Edelman. But um, yeah, I think Notre Dame, again, on their revenge tour, gets their revenge from last season.
Dude, kind of an interesting game. I think it's Hopkins St. Joe's. We tagged St. Joe's as a team to watch early in the season. Um,
It's a big game for
Hopkins has
St.
been kind of
Joe's.
topsy turvy. I mean, I think it's a huge game for both teams.
It is huge. Hopkins, if they drop to St. Joe's, you could argue they need to win the Big Ten to get in the tournament. Not convinced with their wins
They're not going to win the Big
thus
Ten.
far. Well, it was,
But yeah,
you
you're
know
right.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're
They
right.
they lose to St. Joe's, then they go play Virginia, or Virginia comes and plays them, and then they jump into the well, I guess QCC. Then they
If they
have
lose, if they
Cuse, Navy,
lose,
Delaware, Michigan, and then they hop into Big Ten. So that if they lose, then they play Virginia, then they go to Syracuse in the Dome.
they'd be going to the Dome at 3-4, which after a massive second game of the year at the time we thought was a massive win over Georgetown, and things were really moving in the right direction.
I think
To
that
have
win.
that,
I think that win showed more about Georgetown hindsight
dude, that's what it's starting to look like. Yeah,
than
I agree.
Hopkins.
I
Um,
agree. I think St. Joe's is going to win. I think
I
St.
think it's
Joe's
a
is
it's a great game to keep your eye on. That's one you can make some money on if you bet St. Joe's. You heard it here first. Snapping towels will be in the mix on that one. Penn State coming off a Yale win, playing Penn, another Ivy. Gotta love the scheduling by Penn State first and foremost.
badass.
They get them at home. I don't. I hope the weather's all right. I think Penn dominates. Obviously, coming off a loss, I don't think you beat that talented Penn team
I think
twice.
Sam Hanley's going to have 5+ points, and Gergar and Ruben are going to have big days down in attack. BJ Farrar is gonna find his shoes after getting shook last weekend. Um, yeah, I'm going with the Quakers. They're not losing two in a row. They're a better team than Penn State. Um,
Virginia's hosting Richmond. Don't need to talk about it. Just for the
they
fans.
lost to Richmond last year.
They lost last year. They get them at home. It's probably a 2-year contract, which I love.
There's no chance they're losing 2 years in a row.
Negative. This will be a slaughter. Hopefully Lars leaves in the defense a little longer than he did against Harvard. But you never know. I don't think
Yeah,
Richmond can score like Harvard even against the backups of Virginia. So
dude, I'm kind of loving the High Point Jacksonville matchup. Not the SoCon is no longer, but this
mm,
matchup remains, which is kind of sweet.
beautiful.
Um, Taking
Two
our
teams
Fins,
that always
obviously.
battle. Yeah,
Yeah,
not much of a discussion who's going to win here. They are traveling to High Point, very familiar with playing there. Um, yeah, I think it's Jacksonville every day and yesterday. Moving on to a more must-win game, Sunday. Gotta love Sunday lax. Never played in it really, but
What a
Q's
finale.
Q's hosting the Duke Blue Devils.
What a finale. Didn't Dordovic have an obscene goal in this game last year?
He did have a tweener on the fast
Yeah,
break, a
it was
one-handed tweener.
absurd. Yeah.
That's good
I think that was actually
action.
the first highlight we ever put on a show. Um,
Historic,
yeah,
some would say.
yeah, historic for sure. Um, you know, Duke's winning this game. Hughes, Hughes to me is kind of like Hopkins right now. It's kind of it's it's encouraging to see them take some steps forward. Compete in some games, score some goals. I just don't think they're there yet in 2023. Um, I think you'll see big days from Hiltz and Spallina because that's just what they do.
Mm.
But Duke's too sound. I think they proved that in their win at Penn. Duke, another team out for absolute blood this year. They're going to beat Cuse.
Hughes' goaltender hasn't impressed me thus far this season, and I think it's unfortunate because their defense is shaky at best. I think they're out of control. I think they've been a victim to the early season half slide, being in a little bit of no man's land,
Yep.
and Duke feasts on those. You've got to be on point. Duke plays fast in the dome. I don't think they have a hiccup against Cuse, but Gary is regarded as the best, so you never know what he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, he's definitely the GOAT. Hopkins, Virginia, Tuesday. Push it to next week. Probably will be before we record.
Unbelievable. I'm going Virginia every day of this year on that win. I think they win that 10 out of 10 times.
I think they win by 7 or 8 goals.
I was impressed with Hopkins early with some goaltender play and the play of Melendez. Melendez is no secret anymore. Teams know
They
who
just
to
don't have enough.
teams know who to mark, and
Yeah.
they've been struggling. So I'm excited for the weekend. It's going to be a banger. Those are the picks.
Talk to
Hope
me a little bit about sixes before we go. I watched a little bit here and
great
there. Our boy
call.
Romar takes home the golden stick. Much love to Romar Dennis for doing that.
Shout out.
Um, I think he's the sixes goat at this point, right? I think that's kind of that's undisputed.
He is the
Tough not having the Canadians play, but at this point, Romar is the sixes goat.
very much so. He showed pretty much everyone a snippet of what a Loyola practice looked like in those little mini field drills. Um, with him with the ball. He called his shot. He told me before the tournament he's going for the MVP. He wasn't lying. A 13-yard 2-point arc is a crease crank for him at this stage of his game. And from the first game to the last, he didn't take his foot off the gas. It was unfortunate they couldn't come out with the win, but I think he proved to himself and the league that he is more than good enough to be a first out of the box midi or a third out of the box if you want him to be the key dodger. I think he had a chip on his shoulder being sat 4 games last year. He made that known in his post Golden Stick win interview, where he kind of threw a shot directly at the Atlas coaches from last year, which was, I love it. I love to see it as his friend and a fan of the game. I think when players can speak out like that, it's kind of, you haven't seen it in lacrosse. You see it in a lot of other sports now. I think it's the old wave of the, coaches and owners having complete control is kind of over in my book. You see it with NBA players, you see it with NFL players. They're going where they want because they know they're the market. So I think with him calling a shot, winning the MVP, and then, telling everyone that I've had this in my bag for a lot of years now, is admirable and should kind of set a precedent for how kids should like believe in themselves at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think of the product?
I think
These
it's
six sixes.
amazing. I think it was great.
Looks like a lot of fun to play. I definitely will give it that.
It's a different game than
Very.
field lacrosse. So for the Olympics to adopt the sixes makes sense. Viewing wise, incredible. To the tens, very back and forth games. If hockey didn't have a face off after every goal, that's what it would look like. 15 to 20 20-point games easily. Um, you pretty much bet the over in probably every single one of those Sixes games. I think it showed the athletes
Definitely puts them on display.
that lacrosse athletes are very versatile, because a lot of these Torton winning attackmen are now on defense trying to D up another Torton winning midi. So it's or a nominee. So
Or like Romar getting matched up on Grant Amen. You know,
yeah,
it's interesting. I don't I liked it. I didn't love it. I mean, I think it would be, and if you're at the peak of your game and in great shape, I think that'd be unbelievably fun to play. Obviously, just so much offense, so many looks.
felt bad for the
Uh,
goalies a bit.
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
it's
it,
like
you
old
know,
school, like high school indoor
yeah,
lacrosse.
we grew
Just
up playing that, and it's a good, yeah. I mean, you love playing it as a kid. It's an amazing conditioner. You're running up and down the field. You get put in awkward, weird situations that you wouldn't get put in field lacrosse. I liked how it kind of stripped these players' identities in a bit. When you go out to the field, they're very much in their box, in what they do. So to see it way more fluid, I enjoyed them thoroughly. It was almost like NHL Arcade, that old video game, compared to NHL the video game.
should
Um,
the field be a little bit longer?
well, then they're just gonna
I
get
mean, Romar is like I mean, it's like watching an NBA game. I mean, these guys are down the floor in four strides. I mean, he's traveling 2 point arc, 2 point arc very quickly, which
It's-
obviously it's sweet. It
I
just
don't I don't
felt
think
very compressed to me.
I think that's what made it kind of entertaining for me, because there was some middle of the field stuff. The Chrome in the championship game threw this gnarly full court press that really threw
Yeah,
the Bulls for a whirl, and they got a couple goals off it. And I think if the field's bigger, it's just harder to do that, because it's like
yeah.
you're running 20 to 30 more yards per shift. I was impressed by the product. I think the PL continues. There are fans in the stands. It was a perfect size venue.
It was
Um,
well put together, well thought out. Clearly, kudos to the Rabel brothers,
yeah,
no doubt.
I heard Paul talking during the broadcast, saying that the Olympic Committee needed to see it live. So what's he do? He takes the best players that are available, and he puts out a product to take a step in getting the game of lacrosse back in the Olympics, which is, he doesn't have to do that. He could just be like, yeah, it's all right. We'll just keep our league. And that's what the MLL would have done, you know.
Why were the Canadians not playing?
They're in full box season.
Okay, right, of course. Yep,
Baptiste, there's, a handful of Americans that are in the box league too. And then you saw the absence of players that play in the summer that coach college lacrosse in the spring that also didn't play,
yep.
or the teams didn't have the availability to pick them up. So it's cool. You see players that were studs at college, that, shout out Will Perry, that haven't had a chance to crack a lineup, to get their feet wet a little bit in the PLL, see how they do.
Perfect game for Will Perry.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
perfect setup for him.
he did his thing. The Whip Snakes, it was good to see them kind of fall without their key players in a
Yep.
way. Thought Will played great though. Um, yeah, I thought it was a great week for them. Great product, quick, easy, not too much time. I mean, there's a game every day. So, and then boom, you're in the championship. It didn't breathe at all.
I mean, it kind of felt honestly like a quick little Olympics snapshot, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
they got ESPN throwing it on. I was, doing a little après in the mountains in California, and I look up and there's a Bulls game on. It's
Pretty cool.
unreal.
Pretty
Uh,
cool.
had to tune in. So yeah,
Also, there's a lot of time. Paul and the league kind of need to take advantage of and build upon the momentum, the viewership numbers, whatever. If you don't have this, there's a lot of time of no pro lax, no PLL exposure from the championship, end of August, early September to the start of the season, which is May, June. Um,
yep,
so yeah,
yeah.
I think this is a good kind of little splash to just kind of remind everybody, hey, we're still here, we're growing. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I wanted I think I'd like playing it more than watching it, just to be totally honest.
Mm,
But I'm all for it. And if I can pop on a little lax on a Wednesday night on ESPN, quick, fun little game with
yeah.
just goals galore, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it was viral clip after viral clip per game.
Yeah.
Kids love to see it. So I was all there for it. I know probably took some people some getting used to, but if you take it for what it is and not try to think about it as
Yeah.
the full field game, it's an impressive product. I think it's a fun way. At first I was like, oh, the Olympics is taking sixes. After watching that, it makes total sense. Like you could totally see a country like Japan put out an amazing product in that setting, just running up
And
and
it's just
down.
easier for, I think, for Olympic viewers to digest. If it's kind of like if you're watching an event and it spills into lacrosse, like it gets going quickly and you're seeing goals in the first 60, 120 seconds, that might keep a viewer, might keep butts in seats, I think. Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think it's gonna be great.
I love it. I thought yeah, I thought it was a good product and a successful week for the PLL. I'm curious to see how the numbers did, but if they're good, we'd probably see them. If not, it was a success either way, putting that film in front of the Olympic Committee.
No doubt. Well, Kyle, this has been great. Episode 4 wrapped up. Big, big weekend.
Put your
Some
bets
big
in.
matchups this weekend. Can't wait.